Printing of voter IDs to restart soon, and man to stand trial for causing death to pastor by dangerous driving. Regionally, BVI's Education Ministry to crack down on scholarship recipients. Internationally, Sudan crisis, dozens of bodies pulled from Nile, opposition says. And in sports, India beats South Africa, Rohit Sharma hits century in Cricket World Cup victory. We'll have the details to these and other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back on to the national news in detail. Necessary measures are being implemented to ensure that the processing of national identification cards at the electoral office as part of the voter registration process can resume this month. That's according to the Attorney General and Minister responsible for the electoral office, the Honorable Vincent Byron. Speaking at the Prime Minister's press conference last Wednesday, May 29th, Minister Byron indicated that an upgrade of the application software at the electoral office was also necessary to ensure the proper functioning of the equipment, and that the upgrade was completed on April 25th, 2019.
The integration process is expected to take about 2 weeks to complete. Once this process is completed, the electoral office will be able to proceed with software upgrades and deploying them on the new equipment that's already in their possession. This is a report that has been received as we speak today from the Director of Technology, who has oversight in upgrading the equipment.
AG Byron also clarified the position as it relates to persons using an ID to vote.
I wish to say, however, that regardless of whether the ability to print cards is there or not, it does not prevent any citizen from applying to and being registered by the office. This has been going on all year. 50 people plus have already been registered between January and April, and there's every indication that the system is running properly. It would not prevent any citizen to be able to vote if the Honorable Prime Minister decided to take it out of his pocket and ring the bell tomorrow, because you'd still be able to vote regardless of whether you have the national ID card. But you can also use a government-issued passport, a driver's license, social security card, as the same identification if you were to go to a polling station and vote.
Attorney General, the Honorable Vincent Byron. In police news, a man who was charged for the offense of causing the death of another person was committed to stand trial in September after his appearance at the Magistrate Court on May 23, 2019. Christopher Chu of Frigate Bay St. Kitts was granted bail last year. Reports are that at about 1:40 a.m., MotoGP PA 5711, which is owned by the Scenic Railway and was driven by Mr. Chu, struck Pastor Mark Hodge of Sandy Point, who was standing next to his motor van P9838. The incident occurred on Wellington Road in the vicinity of Flow Grounds. Chu, who was charged for the offense of causing death by dangerous driving of the late Pastor Hodge of Sandy Point, he was charged on November 18, 2017. According to a police communique, he was bailed with conditions in the sum of $500,000, with $100,000 of the overall sum as cash surety. The conditions are that 1. He is to report to Frigate Bay Police Station every Sunday between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. 2. Surrender all travel documents forthwith. 3. Should not leave the jurisdiction unless the matter disposed of or dispensed with. 4. Refrain from driving any motor vehicles in the Federation. And 5. Any breach of these conditions will result in revocation of the bail. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris is attending the Caribbean Development Bank CDB's 49th annual meeting from June 5th to the 6th at the Hyatt Regency in Port of Spain, Trinidad. The theme for the meeting is transformation. Prime Minister Harris also holds a seat on the Board of Governors of the CDB. During the two-day meeting, Prime Minister Harris, who chairs the Caribbean Community CARICOM, will be apprised of important operational developments and their implications for the bank's day-to-day management. Prime Minister Harris and his colleagues will also discuss ways to further enhance the CDB's effectiveness and responsiveness to its borrowing member countries' BMCs. Financial Secretary for the Government of St. Kitts and Nevis, Mrs. Hilary Hazel, who is the country's alternate governor at the CDB, is also in attendance. In more national news,
in terms of winners, we had 8 persons who competed in the gospel song competition. Vinel Powell emerged as the winner. Ellie Ramirez placed second and Devon Cornelius placed third. For the liturgical dance competition, Eden Brown Church of God did it again a second time. They won the dance competition, followed by the African dancers from NIPAC and the Jessup New Testament Church of God who played third. And so in this we are grateful and we looking forward to an even bigger and better event next year.
Director of the Community Development Department, Mrs. Janet Maloney. Mrs. Maloney was providing an insight about the second edition of the Gospel Explosion event, which was held on Saturday, June 1st at 7 p.m. at the Nevis Cultural Village. When asked if the department met its objective or objectives, this was her response.
To a certain extent, it has. The gospel explosion was introduced to strike a balance and to provide an avenue for the Christian community, the youth, especially in the Christian community, where they can express themselves or use their talents for the Lord. And so it has been achieved to that extent is that a lot of young people are coming on board to sing, and then we are to make the general public aware of the youth on the other side of the fence, as I normally call it, who also are talented and can reach an audience, especially in terms of creating and influence other youths to walk on the positive pathway.
Director of the Community Development Department, Mrs. Janet Maloney. According to Mrs. Maloney, Minister of Community Development here on Nevis, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, has pledged that the event will become an annual one. Met officials here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis have indicated that the country is prepared for the 2019 hurricane season, which began on June 1, 2019. Forecasters from NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, have also predicted 9 to 15 named storms for the season. However, on May 20, 2019, Subtropical Storm Andrea was formed, marking the record 50th year in a row where a tropical or subtropical cyclone developed before the official start of the season. Senior Meteorological Officer at the St. Kitts Met Office is Mr. Elmer Burke.
We, in terms of the technocrats, in terms of whether it be the Met Office or the disaster agencies, we are prepared in terms of, yes, we have the capacity and we are continuously monitoring the conditions and we are in a state of readiness to respond if need be. However, we always want to encourage the general public because, yes, we would play a role in terms of institutionally. However, the public have to play a role in terms of individually, in terms of ensuring their state of readiness.
He also had this to say to the public.
I would just encourage the general public to pay attention to information coming from the local Met Office through the various media houses or the disaster agencies, because your local Met Office would localize whatever forecast that we are looking at in terms of possible impact if there's a storm threatening us. At this moment, I would indicate there's nothing threatening us. However, in the event that we have to reach that stage, we always try to encourage the general public pay attention to your local media, because the local media in turn will be getting their information from the local Met offices.
Senior Meteorological Officer at the St. Kitts Met Office, Mr. Elmer Burke. In other national news,
for the second time, St. Kitts and Nevis will host the Caribbean Invest Summit over the period 19 to 21st June 2019.
That was Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. The Caribbean Investment Summit CIS will be celebrating its 35th year of collaboration between the Caribbean Citizenship by Investment Program's CIP countries in St. Kitts and Nevis. This year's summit will focus on the Citizenship by Investment Programs Association CIPA with the aim of better facilitating knowledge transfer regarding industry best practices, critical trends and business insights. The Caribbean Investment Summit will host 3 Prime Ministers, namely Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Prime Minister of Dominica Roosevelt Skerrit, and Prime Minister of St. Lucia Alan Chasney. It will also host a wide variety of CEOs, CIUs, directors and analysts. And lastly, in our national news segment, between the period of May 26th and May 29th, 2019, St. Kitts and Nevis's ambassador to UNESCO, His Excellency Dr. David Doyle, attended a series of visits and consultations in Osaka, Japan. Japan is in the process of submitting a proposal to seek a listing in the World Heritage Committee of the Mozu Farochi Kofun area, a graveyard representing the tombs of the ancestors of the present-day Imperial Royal Family of Japan. St. Kitts and Nevis was one of the members of the UNESCO World Heritage Committee invited to Osaka to observe how their experts prepare their submissions of historical sites for consideration to the World Heritage List. St. Kitts and Nevis will be part of the examining group, having been elected to the UNESCO World Heritage Committee in November 2017. The Mozo Farochi Kofan site will be part of the submissions to be examined at the 43rd World Heritage Committee in July in Azerbaijan. And that's it for our national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com, or you can check us out on Facebook at Von Radio or our Von Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. Regional news comes up next.
Ladies and gentlemen, this here's another one for the steppers.
Swipe to win big in 2019. That's right, the Bank of Nevis Limited is once again giving you, our valued customers, a chance to win big. Just swipe or use your Bond Visa credit card for US $100 for a chance to win a cruise for 2, an iPhone XS, or a grocery dash at Best Buy Supermarket.
Say what?
Sign up for a Bond Visa credit card and automatically be entered for a chance to win. This offer ends August 31st, 2019. So tell your friends and family to swipe to win big with the Bank of Nevis. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram.
Welcome back, and now on to the regional news. Out of the British Virgin Islands BVI, the Ministry of Education will be cracking down on scholarship recipients, whereby they, the recipients, will be mandated to uphold their bonds to the government, Education Minister Dr. Natalia Wheatley has said. Dr. Wheatley said this is one of the ways that the Andrew Foy-led administration intends to get returns on their investment in the territory's youth. He explained that while he encourages and supports students getting some experience abroad, the country must see the benefits of these scholarships. Dr. Wheatley further pledged to implement measures to ensure that these scholarship the students take have a good opportunity to be employed in both the public and private sectors upon their return to the territory. Following what the Caribbean Examinations Council CXC called a due diligence probe, the regional body has announced that there will be no need for students around the region to resit any exams. CXC had launched the probe after a video surfaced on social media showing Trinidad and Tobago students sitting an exam while using their cellular phones. The Examination Council said the results of their probe is that there was no breach of any examination papers. However, CXC's registrar Glenn White Cumberbatch said it is clear that there was lapse supervision in some examination centers. Meanwhile, Education Minister Dr. Natalia Wheatley said steps would be taken to reduce the probability of security breaches while BVI students sit exams from external bodies such as the CXC. Out of Guyana, natural gas was on Tuesday continuing to spew in the northwestern side of the country from what was expected to be a potable water well being drilled by a Brazilian company for a private businessman, officials said. Region Baratme Weni Chairman Brett Null Archer told the Demerara Waves Online News that as far as his regional council was aware, no information or request was submitted. He was quoted as saying, "Our concern at the RDC is if the business person would have had the necessary permit provided in order to have that drilling done, and so that is what they were trying to do to ascertain in that time period," end quote. He was also unaware whether permission was sought by Hydrometeorological Department of the Ministry of Agriculture for the drilling of the water well at Kumaka. Clearance for such a drilling program is also required for the Environmental Protection Agency EPA, Guyana Water Inc., and the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, he said. The Civil Defense Commission's CDC Senior Response Officer Salim October was quoted by government's Department of Public Information DPI as saying that the eruption was as a result of a Brazilian company drilling a water well at the location. CDC Director General Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig said the situation was being monitored by the National Emergency Monitoring. And lastly, in our regional news segment, the Eastern Caribbean Group of Companies ECGC has a new Chief Executive Officer in the person of Elvis DeRiggs. DeRiggs, who took office from May 1st, replaces the outgoing CEO of 12 years, Osmond Davey. The former CEO congratulated DeRiggs on his achievement and said that he is quite capable of filling the position, especially since he has a lot of experience in the milling industry and general management. The outgoing CEO has taken up the new title of Senior Executive Advisor, whose role is to ensure the smooth transition for DeRiggs into his role as the head of the company. He has held this position since he demitted office on April 30th and will officially leave the company at the end of June when his 2-month advisory role to the CEO expires. The East Caribbean Group of Companies began its operations in 1977 as the East Caribbean Flour Mills, that's actually flour mills rather, and are the manufacturers of flour, animal seeds, rice, aerated soft drinks and bottled water. And that's it for our regional news segment. Stay with us for news around the world. Welcome back, and now on to the international news. Sudanese doctors linked to the opposition in the country have said the bodies which were pulled from the Nile River were among 100 people believed to be killed since security forces attacked a protest camp on Monday. Bodies are still being discovered following an operation to quash pre-democracy protests. Reports said a feared paramilitary group was attacking civilians. Sudan's ruling Transitional Military Council TMC vowed to investigate.
Crackdown on the protesters is taking days to emerge. The military's shut down the internet, so communication is difficult, but doctors say they've seen at least 100 bodies and they expect that number to rise. Saudi Arabia, a main backer of the military council, had stayed quiet, but now says it's concerned about developments in Sudan and has called for dialogue. That might explain the sudden U-turn by the head of the military council. Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan says the military is ready to talk with the opposition. On Tuesday, he said the opposite, and that all agreements reached so far had been scrapped.
A police raid on Australian Broadcasting Corporation ABC has drawn fire from broadcasters and rights groups. Officers arrived at the public broadcaster's Sydney headquarters with search warrants naming 2 reporters and the news director. The ABC has protested over the raid. Police searched the home of a News Corporation journalist on Tuesday, sparking alarm. The head of investigative journalism at ABC is John Lyons.
9,214 emails and pieces of correspondence and scripts, of TV scripts, etc. have been downloaded. They're now going through all of those with ABC lawyers and essentially saying, we want that, we don't want that, that's okay, that's not relevant, we want that one. And I think it's a complete and utter violation of what a free media is.
The man who led a military coup in Thailand, the retired General Prayut Chaoyonja, has been elected as the country's first civilian prime minister in 5 years. The opposition said the vote was rigged. The BBC's Michael Bristow reports.
Mr Prayut was chosen in a vote of members of both houses of parliament, following a debate lasting 12 hours. There was little surprise at the outcome. The entire Senate that helped select the new prime minister was hand-picked by the military government and took power in a coup in 2014. Plus, the opposition candidate for the top job has been barred from even taking his seat in the Assembly. Earlier, he gave a speech outside the parliamentary chamber, calling on legislators to eject Mr Prayut. With the same man in charge in Thailand, many wonder how much will actually change.
And lastly, in our international news segment, the Mexican security forces have dismantled 3 synthetic drugs labs in the northern state of Sinaloa. The authorities also seized 17 million doses of methamphetamine. The BBC's Leonardo Rocha reports.
A senior Sinaloa government official, Cristobal Castañeda, said this was the biggest blow to meth production in Mexico this year. 20 illegal labs have been destroyed in the state so far in 2019. They've been located by new drones used by the army, which can capture heat waves in remote areas. Most of the illegal drugs are smuggled into the United States. The operation shows, however, that the Sinaloa cartel continues to produce vast amounts of meth, heroin, cocaine and fentanyl, despite the arrest and extradition of its founder, Joaquin Guzman, known as El Chapo.
That brings us to the end of our news segment. The latest in sports is next.
See you, John.
Betty, how come you never tell me what's going on up at TDC?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because TDC Automotive has some awesome deals. Get the car and used spare tire for just $100 plus VAT. And they have selected tires for 30% off. And for the Jeep, if you buy a selected Goodyear tire, you can get a second one for just $99.
Well.
And not finished yet. They're offering up to 30% off selected Valvoline oils and universal car mats, and a whopping 50% off Energix batteries.
TDC Automotive not making no joke. I going up there now.
Welcome back, and now on to the sports. In ICC cricket, India's player Rohit Sharma scored an unbeaten 122 to guide India to a straightforward 6-wicket win against South Africa in their opening World Cup match. Chasing 228, opener Rohit guided India home with 15 balls to spare. Meanwhile, it was another difficult day for South Africa. They dropped a seemingly regulation catch offered by Rohit on 107. The scores were as follows: South Africa 227 for 9 in 50 overs, Morris 42, Chahal 4 for 51, Bumrah 2 for 35, India 230 for 4 in 47.3 overs, Rohit 122 not out, Dhoni 34, Rabada 2 for 39, and India won by 6 wickets. This is the first time South Africa has lost 3 successive matches at a World Cup. Meanwhile, New Zealand secured their second World Cup win in a row with a nervy 2-wicket win over a spirited Bangladesh in a thriller at the Oval. The scores were as follows: Bangladesh 244 in 49.2 overs, Shakib 64, Henry 4 for 47, New Zealand 248 for 8 in 47.1 overs, Taylor 82, and New Zealand won by 2 wickets. This victory takes New Zealand to the top of the table as the only team so far to win both their matches. They face Afghanistan at Taunton on Saturday when Bangladesh takes on England at Cardiff. And West Indies will go up against Australia at Trent Bridge on Thursday at 10:30 BST. Both sides won their opening World Cup games, West Indies thrashing Pakistan after bowling them out for just 105 with short-pitched fast bowling, while Australia eased past Afghanistan. Still in sports, in basketball, the Toronto Raptors will go up against the Golden State Warriors tonight at 9 o'clock. The game is the third of the series finals, which is tied at 1-1. The next game will be on June 7th, 2019. In local basketball, the annual Malcolm Guichard Basketball League officially began on Sunday, June 2nd at the Church Ground Hard Court. Minister of Sports, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, during the opening ceremony, recognized the organizers of the league and commended Premier the Honorable Mark Brantley for his sponsorship of the league for the past 13 years. The Old School team went up against the CSS Lions, and in the end, Old School defeated the Lions by a 6-point margin. The game summary and the scores are as follows: Old School 62, CSS Lions 56. And lastly, in our sports segment in athletics, the IAAF says it will seek a swift reversal of the decision that allows Olympic champion Caster Semenya to temporarily compete without taking testosterone-reducing medication. On Monday, Switzerland's Federal Supreme Court temporarily suspended a new IAAF ruling that would restrict testosterone levels in female runners. However, the IAAF said the suspension only applied to Semenya, and the court's supervisional order will also only apply until June 25th. And that's it for sports. The weather is next. Welcome back to weather. Tonight will continue to be partly cloudy with a 20% or a slight chance of showers. The weather tomorrow will be partly sunny with a 30% or a low chance of showers. The winds are southeast with speeds ranging between 13 and 30 kilometers per hour or 7 and 16 knots with occasional lighter spells. The seas are not exceeding 1.5 meters or 5 feet. The sunrise tomorrow will be at 5:36 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Wednesday, 5th June 2019. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, problem at electoral office rectified, printing of voter IDs to restart soon, and man to stand trial for causing death to pastor by dangerous driving. Regionally, BVI's education ministry to crack down on scholarship recipients. Internationally, Sudan crisis, dozens of bodies pulled from Nile, opposition says. And in sports, India beats South Africa, Wahid Sharma hits century in Cricket World Cup victory. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Jarvis Brown wishing you a pleasant evening.